Good morning, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. It's currently 5:30 in the morning. I did not get an ounce of sleep, but I wanted to yap a little bit, rant. Well, not so much rant, but yap. Um, so this is not going to be one of my normal videos where I just talk about something that's on my mind. Actually, there is something on my mind. Huh. Anyways, but yeah, so a moment of your time and everything, and hopefully everything will become clear. If not, I don't know what to tell you. Um, so essentially, I wanted to start off with YouTube, right? Now, if I will go back to topics, right? But it'll all make sense, hopefully, right? It'll all be like coherent and everything. So I started doing YouTube back in 2022. Um, Even though I made the channel back in May and I had about 100 videos, I don't count those because technically are deleted, but they're not really deleted. I'm sure there's archives of them somewhere. Um, but again, even though I've been making videos since 2020, don't really count those. Um, I don't really count the videos I've made from I don't really count the channel I had back in 2020 and 2021. And like I said, even though I made the channel back in May, I count October as my official start date on YouTube of 2022. And um but I have been a part of the YouTube ecosystem, I guess you could say, since early 2010, 2011, give or take, somewhere around there. Um, and I was familiar with YouTube for that. It was great, right? Um, but why I started it was for a simple reason. I wanted to do something that I've always wanted to do since high school. I was in high school at the time, right? I was a sophomore year in high school, right around when Skyrim came out, uh, which I built my channel around for the most part. Um, 2011 is when I started consuming YouTube content. And I've heard it all, right? At this point, right? I've heard that, oh, it's not sustainable, it's not realistic, especially from my parents, right? Um, where it's like they always tell me, oh, it's not realistic, which, you know, it is what it is. It's not realistic. You got to think realistically. It's more of a hobby, which it kind of is. But to not knock them off, I know they just want me to, be a genuine member of society, and have a job and everything. Um, but believe me, I've tried every single job, almost every single job, right? Um, I've worked at a landscaping company. I've worked at a Walmart. I've worked at a Jiffy Lube. Worked at Amazon for a little. I've worked at Target twice. I've worked at Best Buy. I've worked at family owned store called Green Acres. I don't know if it's called that still. Maybe it is. Who knows? I worked at Winco. If you don't know what Winco is, it's basically a grocery store, kind of like Costco. But it's not really so much bulk store like Costco is. Um, I've worked at all sorts, right? Um, and I felt that I wasn't cut out for working, right? And even though I argued with my parents a lot about going to work and everything, it just wasn't suiting me mainly because since high school, I figured out what I wanted to do and I said I wanted to become a YouTuber. I said that to myself, not to my parents. Um and maybe my biggest mistake was saying it to my parents in the first place later on in my life, right? Or 2019 or something like that. And so yeah, I've worked a lot of jobs, right? Um, did I say Walmart? I don't know if I said Walmart. Anyways, um, yeah, I also worked at Walmart and some for a year, but um, yeah. So I just I tried working, right, and I'm not a very sociable person, right? I get burnt out by people a lot. I'm very introverted. Um, and it all comes kind of like full circle a little bit when I moved out. I was like, okay, now I can finally pursue this, but it didn't happen till COVID. And throughout the 3 years, the technically 4 years, if come October of this year that I've been doing this, I've learned a lot, right? And in terms of the videos that I make, I usually just raw dog it, right? I usually just raw dog it. I don't edit anything, right? Maybe I edit. I think I've only made like one cut in my entire history of this channel, or maybe like a fade in screen or fade in scene or whatever at the beginning of the video or something along those lines, right? Um, but I'm not an edit. I never edit it. I basically make unedited content on YouTube. And it shows, right? I just hit record and I hit record and and that's it, right? Um and in terms of and also just to kind of move on from the subject, um, you know, I've well to kind of keep on the topic of YouTube, right? Or like and to kind of like move on from the subject. Um, I've always wanted to do I've always wanted to do YouTube and maybe I wasn't doing it the right way, right? But in terms of like things that I wanted to do, I've always kept it simple. And I've always been told by friends and stuff, well, why don't you make a new channel? Why don't you see where that goes? As much as I love to, I've already committed to this channel. And I tried to keep things as free as possible. Because the one thing I don't like is paid locking things behind a paywall. Um, and like uh I made a Patreon and a Ko-Fi. And I promoted it. I'm not gonna lie. I promoted at least the Ko-Fi. I've promoted. But let's be honest. The only reason why I made those was because so that I could have the Finra Black Wolf name. And yes, I know I've had many names up to this point. I don't think it's a secret that I have. Um, Finra Frostwolf hopefully is the last name. But the only reason why I even um, you know, essentially made those accounts was so that I could have the Fenrir Frostwolf so that nobody could take it. Um and so and that's about it. Um and I've always looked at it like, you know, locking things behind a paywall, right? My initial thought process was, to have tiers, but having access to like say a Discord, which has always been free, but I with the way Discord is going now, I don't think that will be the case soon. Um, but essentially I would say, oh yeah, you get access to the Discord, if you pledged a certain tier, right? I think the highest tier that I have was $150, right? I know that sounds egregious, but it's basically for people who have fuck you money, essentially, right? And there are plenty of people who have fuck you money. Don't get me wrong. Two that come to my head and is Trump and Elon, right? They have fuck you money. And I'm not anyway. So, um, yeah, and so, or like any billionaire really has fuck you money, right? Or any millionaire, right? That has fuck you money. So yeah, I that's only for people of that, right? And I so, but initially with the like the Discord on the link on each Discord, and I set it up in that way where each link, like say if you pledge $1 in the Wolf tier, right? And it would give you access to the Wolf uh channel in Discord, right? Or say the Wolf Lieutenant, it would give you for I think it was $3, I think, and then it will give you and then it goes up to Admiral and or Captain, Admiral, General, and then High Wolf. And then you kind of get the point, right? Each tier that you have, you get access to a different tier of the Discord. Um, and I had a leveling system essentially, right? And I've always kept it free. I might actually do that right now that I'm kind of thinking about it, right? Because I don't like locking things behind a paywall. It's not really my style. Um, but if you guys want to pledge, hey, it's up to you. But I don't promote Patreon much. I don't promote Ko-fi much, right? You guys don't want to do something, you want to do something, right? Yeah. So I have basically seen YouTube. Going back to YouTube, I have basically seen a lot of things happen with this website. Um, with AI and you know and everything. Um, I even made a video about AI, right? Um, and talking about the very different channels, but not going into too much detail. And you could watch that video if you want to. Um, right. But I was watching this channel called Deep Humor, right? And he had he spent his whole career mostly for the most part, going like calling YouTube out for their crap essentially. Um, and one of the videos that I watched was he had like over the years kind of I don't know what the video was called, but essentially he was going over from 2015, I want to say, to like now, um, how many channels were actually real YouTubers, like define real YouTuber, right? But like people actually making those instead of being corporate, right? Um, and so like I think from 2015 there were about 90 channels. 90% of the channels were real YouTubers, like Mr. Beast was one of them. Obviously T Series is not one of them, it's more corporate. But Mr. Beast, PewDiePie, all those guys. But as the years go on, and I think it was the red was real YouTubers, the black colored black was corporate. Over the years, and it actually kind of scared me, and this is kind of what's happening to YouTube right now, is that it's becoming more corporate. Now less and less YouTube. And I think the thing is that and I I have no say in what other people say, right? But I've seen clips go around. Um, but um, Mr. Beast is a big channel, right? And I'll mention him briefly. He's more of a corporate tuber now. Like he does events, he does um a lot of stuff now that he doesn't just focus on YouTube. And so um and so essentially he started doing certain a particular type of thumbnail. They call it the the beastification of thumbnails, the Mr. Beast of the bleh. um I'll get into why I did that in a minute, but the Mr. Beast style thumbnails essentially, right? And 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 channels who have passed PewDiePie, right? Channels who have passed PewDiePie um, have a similar pattern, right? That they do similar style thumbnails because they know it'll get clicks and views. I personally never cared for that, right? I make crap thumbnails, not entertaining. I make crap thumbnails. I reuse the same thumbnail over and over and over again, and I don't care. If it gets views, it gets views. If it doesn't, it doesn't. If it gains a new subscriber, well, then I'm happy. And look, and again, like in terms of subscriptions, it's absolutely free, right? I ask, but you're not obligated. I can't stress that enough to where you are not obligated. We are big boys and girls. I think we can make our own decision. You find that my channel is not for you, right? With my uneditedness and that I just if you don't like unedited content, and you find this channel's not for you, that's fine, you know. Or if you find that you like this channel, great, stick around, right? Um, and yeah, and so overall, I just feel like with everything that's going on, it's YouTube is becoming more corporate, and I don't like it. Um, but it used to be about people. Subscribers used to matter. I feel like it doesn't anymore. It does, maybe it doesn't. I don't know. Um, but in terms of like why I stumbled over my words, I basically mm, maybe red flag, maybe not. I honestly don't care at this point. I was basically diagnosed with autism at age 3. I've had it since birth. I've been diagnosed with autism at age 3, and I've had that since birth. Um, and um, yeah, and so um, I'm proud of who I am, right? But I look at Markiplier, right? And I think this is a good segue into why I gravitate towards YouTubers, why I gravitate towards streamers, is because almost more than half of them, give or take, right? Um have a form of ADHD, have a form of Tourette's, have a form of autism or whatever you can think of, right? Not everyone does, right? But some of them do. Um, but and that's why I relate to them in a lot of ways, right? I relate to them in a lot of ways, and very much blessing, right? I've met some people that really treat me like family for the most part. Obviously, not being parasocial or anything, but I feel at home, right? I feel comfortable, right, with said VTuber, or not VTuber. What am I saying? I don't watch VTubers. I mean, I do, but only on YouTube. Whatever. Um, I'm said streamer. Sorry. Again, um, but yeah. So said streamer slash YouTuber. I also have another channel that's not really a channel. It's more of like an archive of sorts. That where in the beginning I've said I've been a part of the YouTube landscape. My first channel was a channel named Dracula the Dragon, right? I know it's a stupid name. Heaven forbid it was stupid. I've since changed it, but um essentially it was basically an archive of all the playlists that I found on YouTube at that time. I've since cleaned it up a little bit to make it a little bit pretty, but yeah, and so I just feel like, and I respect Markiplier, I respect Jacksepticeye, and you know Markiplier wears his heart on his sleeve, and I've watched. I especially like his highlight videos. I think he's funny AF, right? And one of its charms is that he stumbles over his words a lot, and he's proud of it, right? He keeps that in the video for this for the bit, right? And I mean, even with my second Legacy of the Dragonborn Skyrim video that I did, it was very much the same thing. I tried reading cursive. I cannot read cursive for the fucking life of me, right? I've never learned a second language, and I probably don't want to learn a second language. It's what translations are for, or a translation app or whatever. Um, but yeah, and you saw me try to read that book on the second episode, and I'm like, and I was like, no, fuck that. I just, I was done. I was like, I can't read this for shit. This is hurting my brain. Um, yeah, and so I just feel like I've grown as a human. I've grown as a human being. You know, I mean, hell, I even watch. I mean, I don't know if it's growth, but I even made a video saying I watch Asmongold, right? Hate me or love me or hate me for that, doesn't matter. I watch a lot of VTubers, right, on YouTube, right? I find their content very entertaining. I know that's on a surface level, and I'm probably just a tourist or something, but I, I don't know, man. I just at this point I don't care. You can call me what you want, but oh, but yeah, I don't know. I say I'm saying I don't know, not because I'm trying to come up with the words. But yeah, there's a lot of things that I've learned, right? Is that I think that in terms of YouTube, I've basically grown as a creator, grown as a person. I've learned to be more comfortable in front of the camera. Um, Still working on the sociable part, but sometimes I don't want to be sociable. Um, Very select few are I am sociable with, but um, but yeah. Anyways, um, I'm sure there was a lot of missed thoughts there, but you know, I'm at the point where I don't care. I make a video, and if and again, I will say this: I've never really cared about views. I think I said that before, and maybe I'm just not remembering. But I've always, I've just, did what I wanted, right? And if it gets a subscriber, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the way, or it's like the sound of my soothing voice, even though it's not very soothing. I don't think it's soothing. Um, but yeah, and like I said, in terms of the subscriptions on YouTube, it's absolutely free. You are not obligated to do so. I said this before. We're not obligated to do so, right? And you can unsubscribe if you find this content is not for you, my content is not for you. Every like helps, every dislike helps, right? And lets me know what I can improve upon. At least the dislikes, right? Um, yeah, and so yeah, I think I've said my piece. Um, but yeah, but in terms of like unedited videos, this video is going right as I end the recording. That's basically it, and that's what I've done for years. You want to know why videos come out so damn early? Is because of this. Anyways, guys, I'll catch y'all later. I'm not gonna do a normal outro. Take care of yourselves. Look after yourselves. All right. Catch you later, guys. Peace.